Tell me, how many excuses does it take before you finally admit someone doesn't want to be there? I kept believing his, until one night the truth came wrapped in balloons and a baby registry. My name's Claire. I'm 28, and for nearly a year I thought I was in a serious relationship, the kind where you start saying we without noticing, where weekends blur together, where you let yourself imagine a future. Friday nights were our ritual. No matter how stressful the week got, Friday meant us. A table at the little Italian place we loved. Laughter, sometimes a slow walk by the river after dessert. It wasn't just a date, it was a promise. That evening, I'd done everything to make it feel special. Dress laid out, hair done, the playlist we always played ready to go. 15 minutes before he was supposed to pick me up, my phone buzzed. Work's killing me. Can we skip tonight? Rain check? I told myself it was fine. One night off doesn't mean anything. But it wasn't the first time, or the second. It had become a pattern. Always something, always too busy. So I poured myself a glass of wine and scrolled through my phone, trying to shake off the disappointment. That's when I saw it. A photo. My boyfriend, smiling, holding a gift bag, standing in a room filled with pastel balloons and a banner that read, "It's a boy." He wasn't at work. He wasn't too tired. He was at his ex's baby shower. And in that moment, every excuse he'd ever given me twisted into a knife. We met at a friend's housewarming party, one of those nights I almost skipped. I was tired from work, in no mood for small talk. But then he found me in the kitchen, sipping cheap wine and pretending to scroll my phone. He had the kind of charm that pulled people in without effort. Questions that weren't filler, books I liked, places I wanted to see, what made me laugh. By the end of the night, I was telling him things I hadn't shared with anyone in months. From that moment, he was everywhere. Morning texts, surprise lunches, flowers at my office. He picked me up when I was too tired to cook, left notes in my bag reminding me I mattered. He swept me up so quickly that for the first time in years, I felt chosen. The early days felt like a whirlwind. Weekend road trips, late-night conversations that bled into dawn, inside jokes no one else would understand. I told myself, this is what love is supposed to feel like. But even then, shadows crept in. His ex came up often, always brushed off with lines like, "She's just a friend now," or, "That's the past." He said it with conviction, and I wanted to believe him. But sometimes the way his voice shifted when her name slipped out, it didn't sound like closure. It sounded like unfinished business. There were other cracks, too. His phone always face down, buzzing at odd hours. Stories that changed depending on when I asked. Late nights he explained with vague excuses. If I pushed, he'd pull me close, kiss my forehead, whisper, "You know you're the only one." And I clung to it. Because the truth was, I was tired. Tired of bad dates, ghosting, men who couldn't commit. I wanted this one to be different. I needed him to be different. So I ignored the knots in my stomach, brushed off the half-truths, and told myself trust meant not asking too many questions. Looking back, the signs were everywhere. But when you're starved for love, even crumbs feel like a feast. Friday nights were supposed to mean something. They were our promise that no matter how hectic the week got, we'd make space for each other. So that night, I dressed the way I knew he liked. Hair curled, lipstick on, the playlist he'd made for me humming softly in the background. Then, minutes before he was supposed to arrive, my phone lit up. "Work's a nightmare. Can we skip tonight? Promise I'll make it up to you." I typed back, "It's fine," though it wasn't. Not after weeks of the same excuses, late meetings, deadlines, too tired. Our ritual had turned into a waiting game, with me sitting alone while he lived another life I wasn't invited to. I poured a glass of wine, curled into the couch, and tried to distract myself with mindless scrolling. That's when the truth hit me like a punch. There he was, my boyfriend, in a photo I wasn't supposed to see. He was smiling, holding a pastel blue gift bag surrounded by balloons and a banner that read, "It's a boy." Not at work, not chained to his desk, at his ex's baby shower. The glass slipped from my hand, spilling across the table. I stared at the photo, zoomed in just to be sure. The shirt I ironed last week, the watch I'd given him for his birthday. No mistake, no excuse. My chest tightened, but the pain went deeper than betrayal. It wasn't just that he lied, It was that he chose her. He chose to celebrate someone else's future over keeping a promise to me. Questions crowded my mind. Why was he even there? Why hadn't he told me she was pregnant? Was he just being supportive, or was he still tied to her in ways I didn't want to imagine? I caught my reflection in the dark screen of my phone, dressed up, waiting for a man who would never choose me first. The words slipped out before I could stop them. I wasn't his priority. I was his placeholder. That night, I didn't need him to confess. The truth was already in front of me, glowing from someone else's feed. The next morning, I couldn't hold it in. My fingers shook as I typed, "So, work was a baby shower?" He didn't reply right away. When he finally did, it was short. "Seriously? You're making a big deal out of nothing." I called him, needing to hear his voice. He answered on the third ring, calm as ever. "Claire, you're overreacting. She invited me. I went as a friend. That's it." I pressed him, my voice cracking. "You canceled our date night to go to your ex's baby shower? Do you even understand how that feels?" He sighed, like I was a child who didn't get it. This is what adults do. They support each other. Not everything is betrayal. If you were more secure, you'd see that. And there it was. His favorite tactic. Flip the story until I was the problem. He called me jealous, insecure, petty, painted himself as the bigger person, the supportive, mature ex, while I was the girlfriend too fragile to handle reality. The more he spoke, the more the ground shifted under me. Maybe he was right. Maybe I was overreacting. That's how gaslighting works. It doesn't just make you question him. It makes you question yourself. But it didn't stop with me. He carried the narrative to others. To my parents, he was the thoughtful guy who cared enough to show up for an old friend. To some of my friends, he was the patient boyfriend dealing with an overly emotional partner. And it worked on some of them. A friend told me, "At least it shows he's supportive. A lot of men wouldn't bother." Another was harsher. "If you can't trust him, maybe you're not ready for something serious." Not everyone bought it, though. My sister was blunt. "Canceling on you for that? No. That's selfish, not supportive." I was caught in the middle. Half the people in my life telling me to be grateful. The other half warning me I was blind. Meanwhile, he stayed calm, collected, reasonable, while I felt like I was unraveling. And that's when it hit me. If I were really his priority, I wouldn't be fighting to prove my hurt was valid. After that fight, I told myself to let it go. But letting go wasn't possible. Once doubt takes root, it grows. So I started watching. At first, it was small things, checking his phone when he left it charging. Most of the messages were wiped clean. Too clean. But one reminder slipped through. Doctor's appointment, 2 p.m. The doctor wasn't his. Another time, I caught an email notification, a payment sent to a name I didn't recognize. It didn't take long to realize it was hers, his ex. I tried to rationalize it. Maybe it was old business, some lingering debt. But the excuses I made for him no longer settled in my chest. They curdled there. Then came social media. Her posts showed a pregnancy that was celebrated, supported. Captions thanking those who've been there every step of the way. And there he was in the comments. Heart emojis. Proud of you, subtle but unmistakably close. The final crack came one night after midnight. His phone buzzed on the nightstand. He was asleep. I shouldn't have looked. But I did. A message from her. "Thanks for coming today. Couldn't do this without you." My blood ran cold. Coming where? Doing what? Earlier messages were gone, erased like always, but the meaning was clear. He hadn't just shown up once. He'd been there. Doctor visits, preparations, maybe even building the nursery. The whispers I'd ignored lined up like puzzle pieces. People who mentioned seeing his car outside her place, stories about him helping with the crib, and the ugliest question of all, was he just supporting a friend, or was he the father? I confronted him, phone in hand, heart pounding. "You've been with her, haven't you? You've been lying to me this whole time." He didn't deny it. He laughed. Actually, laughed. "You're losing it, Claire. Do you even hear yourself? You sound insane." But his laughter wasn't carefree. It was sharp, brittle, the kind of sound a man makes when he's cornered. The truth pressed down on me, undeniable. He hadn't been too busy for me because of work. He had been living a double life right in front of me. The night of the baby shower wasn't the betrayal, it was just the night I finally saw what had been happening all along. When the evidence stacked too high to ignore, I didn't explode. I didn't throw things or scream down the phone like some drama on TV. I just went still. There's a kind of pain that's too big for rage. It doesn't erupt. It settles. Heavy. Suffocating. Unmovable. That's where I found myself. So instead of one last fight, I chose silence. I typed a single message. We're done. Don't come back. No paragraphs, no explanations. Just finality. It felt anticlimactic at first. After all the lies, all the nights I cried waiting for him, shouldn't the ending have been louder? But the truth was, I had nothing left to give him. No more words, no more chances. He drained me long before I ever hit send. Still, walking away didn't bring instant relief. It wasn't freedom. It was detox. The first weeks were unbearable. I checked my phone obsessively, even though I'd blocked him. Half of me braced for him to push through anyway. The other half secretly wished he would. That's the trap of toxic love. You crave the very thing that's poisoning you. At night, I swung between longing and loathing. 1 hour, I imagined him knocking on my door, begging for forgiveness. The next, I hated myself for even wanting it. That cycle became its own prison. Friends tried to comfort me with cliches. You're better off without him. He didn't deserve you. You'll find someone better. I smiled, nodded, pretended those words helped, but alone in the quiet, they dissolved. None of them erased the truth. I hadn't just lost a boyfriend, I'd lost myself. Because the woman I was in that relationship wasn't someone I recognized anymore. I had defended him when people raised eyebrows. I had twisted his excuses into logic I could live with. I had convinced myself crumbs were a feast, just to keep the illusion of love alive. Mourning him was one thing. Mourning the version of myself I became for him. That was harder. Sometimes grief came at me sideways. The dent in the pillow where his head used to rest, the playlist he made me, still queued on my phone, his mug in the cabinet, untouched. I'd stand there staring at it, furious that something so ordinary could hurt so much. But slowly, through those moments, a new understanding formed. Being understanding had been my disguise for ignoring disrespect. I'd worn it like a badge, the cool girlfriend who wasn't jealous, the easygoing one who let him live his life. But maturity doesn't mean silence. Trust doesn't mean blindness. And love doesn't mean shrinking yourself so someone else can stretch their lies. He wasn't too busy for me. He was too invested in her. And the wound that cut the deepest wasn't just his betrayal. It was the way he made me feel insane for noticing it. Jealous. Insecure. Overreacting. Those words had become chains, and I wore them until I almost believed they were true. But I wasn't crazy. I wasn't insecure. I wasn't overreacting. I was right. And that truth, spoken quietly in the wreckage, became my first step forward. Looking back, I see it clearly now. All the times I thought I was being understanding, I was really just disguising disrespect. I told myself maturity meant giving space, that trust meant not asking questions. But what I was really doing was excusing behavior that should never have been excused. Because love isn't built on excuses. It isn't gaslighting. It isn't waiting around to be someone's placeholder while they keep their heart invested elsewhere. He wasn't too busy for me. He was too invested in her. And the wound that lingered wasn't just his betrayal, it was how he twisted my instincts into flaws. How he made me believe my hurt was proof of my weakness, not his dishonesty. Never let someone make you feel crazy for noticing the truth. I used to think I was competing with his past. But the real competition was with myself. The part of me willing to settle for less than I deserved, just to hold on to the illusion of love. I wasn't his second choice. I just chose myself too late. The scars of that story are still there. They flare up when someone cancels plans, when a phone buzzes face down, when promises sound too smooth. But scars aren't weakness. They're proof I survived. And the woman I am now, she's wiser, sharper, and absolutely unwilling to ever be anyone's second choice again.